Now, welcome into the second part of the show. As the great Billy McCarthy would say, welcome into the show. I loved that. It was nice, Frank, wasn't it? I liked that. It was nice. With cloud storage, check size limit, says Tony in Ballymac. What happens to data if subscription stops, and whether data is part of your estate if the worst happens? Damien, regarding gambling, I know people who play certain arcades in and around Waterford City and County and Tramore from 10 in the morning until the following morning. That's almost every day. It is a big problem. Damien, look at the lottery. It's the biggest form of gambling in the country. This is supported by the government and shown live on TV. Damien, gambling is a massive problem, but it's still a minority who have addiction problems, and laws will be made which will affect people who gamble responsibly for enjoyment. Education and investment is required, not a ban. A ban on gambling will just drive it underground like the drugs problem. A caller to 051 846 123 says online gambling should be done away with. He knows a lot of fellas who have troubles because of it. Willie has phoned in to say if you go to any bookies, there'll be black sacks full of dockets. They're all losers. There's no winners. Very true comments coming in there, isn't it, Frank?
I have no knowledge of gambling whatsoever. Never gambled in my life.
Do you feel lucky never to have?
No, I feel that everybody on the road gambles when I'm driving because I'm such a bad driver. But
Day and David, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
He's a bit of a funny guy, isn't he?
He is very.
Tries to crack a few jokes. You have to be you have to be with him, though. I'd say you have to get up early in the morning to stay with him. Frank Kennedy, New Community Men's Shed. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much. We've been here before, Damien, as you know.
Yeah, the Men's Shed at Osmond Street in the city centre is for members of the refugee community, teaching skills such as woodwork, computer skills, and it's been going for 6 months now. And joining me now is David Matebe and Day Maria and Frank Kennedy. Tell me a little bit about why you were in today.
Well, for the past 6 months, we've had some great success, thanks to yourself and, of course, to Vincent de Paul. And our original intention was to just extend the hand of friendship to refugee men. And we have found, unlike most men's sheds, our age profile of the lads is younger. So they're all looking for careers. And we found that not a lot of them were terribly interested in woodwork as a career, because in their own countries, woodworkers aren't held in great high esteem and they're not high income earners either. So we asking the lads about what they would like to do. A lot of them said, look, we really want computer skills. And when we looked around and asked them, we discovered that about 80% of the refugees that we know failed in their first year in post-leaving cert courses. So that was a big eye-opener for us, you know, and David will tell you exactly the challenges that they face, you know.
Let's go straight to David on that. Where are you from originally, David?
I'm originally from Uganda.
And why did you come to Ireland?
I come to Ireland that my family was here before. My wife was living here, so I came to join her. And I'm here and with my 3 daughters and my wife.
And how long are you here?
I've been here for 10 years living in Waterford.
And how have you found it?
I find it fantastic, and I'm happy to live here in Waterford. It's a fantastic place, a community place, so people, they are lovely.
Do you ever experience any racism?
No, not at all.
That's
not
good.
At all. I find good people, and I live with good people like Frank.
Yeah.
And so we are friendly people.
Tell me about the computer aspect of what Frank was saying and your own experience.
Yeah, as Frank said, that we started the community of New Community Men's Shed, and we thought that the young men would be interested in woodwork. And now we find that they are not very happy with it. But we came with another concept of computer, and we find that they are very much interested. And we say that many young men, they have gone to the college and they find it very difficult because they have no enough experience and they feel that they don't have friends and they find a lot of challenge. And when they are even in the hostel where they live, they find that they don't have enough space where they can interact with the friends. But as our place is just near the hostel, we find that it will be very important for them to come and integrate with the friends. And we see that they can bring them to ahead, and the time when they join the college, they will be very positive of what they want, because some of them, they choose a long course when they go to the college, but here they will get more advice.
Deise, would you agree with that?
I do agree with what David is saying, because most of the ladies who are actually coming, they don't have that computer literacy. That's first thing. The second thing is that they don't have a full knowledge or awareness of what the college demands. So when they go into college, then they realize that much of the work now is being done using the IT system, computers, which they are not acquainted with. And it becomes a challenge for them to master the software so that they can do the assignments on time. Yet the environment in the college, the college cannot supply the computers for everybody. They need somewhere where they can actually practice it. That's why we actually find it ourselves is to fill in so that they can progress with their life.
To better oneself.
Yeah.
Frank, why do we need another training centre then?
Well, as David and Deise said, there are English language challenges, there are home study challenges, there are psychological challenges. And these are very often now the people we're talking about are very high-functioning people, but need that extra support. And in our training centre, they have full access to it. In fact, the groups we're working with now have agreed that after every lesson, they will repeat the lesson themselves as a group, sharing their knowledge, So, and they will get extra tuition then in what they call, I suppose, English for special purposes. We're looking for people to do bookkeeping, to train in bookkeeping. And there's a whole language connected with that Irish students would be expected to know anyway. Things like credit and debit and so on, that would be completely unknown to people who weren't of an English language background. So we're offering that kind of support, but mostly actually we're offering a kind of an environment where the students themselves can be really active in their own learning.
So we'll talk about tutors in a minute, skills that a tutor might bring and what a tutor is looking for. Like, what would you like, David, from a tutor, somebody who was to teach you? What would you like to see him or her having the ability to teach you in a certain way?
I think in that the student who need a tutor who's calm and be able to connect with them one-to-one. Because you may find that we have a small place where the student can sit and they can share the knowledge which is not able to get in the college, because the college, it has more advanced skills. But here we are on the level whereby the tutor will be just calm, connected to the students.
So effectively, Deise, you're talking kind of a one-to-one kind of approach in terms of working with students, because obviously students will be coming at it from different levels. Mm-hmm. You're starting very basics from some people, others a little bit more advanced. So to give that one-to-one tutoring as close as possible would be important.
It's very important because having a one-to-one, one is able to ask questions, one is able to get clarification, one is also able to do the hands-on, because it's not only a matter of listening, but it's also a matter of applying your knowledge onto the software. So it's very important in a smaller environment, because in a bigger class, it's very difficult to get that attention. And then that will then result that if you don't understand it, you then go out, try to ask somebody, they would say, I can explain better if I am on the computer. Yet they don't have it.
Yeah.
But a smaller group, they will have all that time to practice and assimilate, because practice makes perfect, and one has that confidence.
In any education system, Frank, the importance of applying education needs to the requirements of the students is what makes it a success. So there's no point in somebody going in and teaching a class of 20 and none of them learning anything after 10 weeks, you'd be better off going in, get a class of 5, and literally just take them step by step through it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about.
And our classes are a maximum of 6.
Excellent.
And these are adults, and they are really active participants in their own learning. They really appreciate the fact that somebody would be offering their knowledge for the betterment, not of the teacher themselves, but of the students. And the idea that they came up with the idea of saying, look, after every tutorial, we will gather together as a group of students, share our understanding of the class, share our knowledge. It's a wonderful thing. It's something that it couldn't happen otherwise, you know.
Because you're empowering people then to better their lives, to become valued members of society, and to become part of the workforce, instead of that feeling of, I'm not part of this. It's a very practical integration system.
And you know, when we ask, David will tell you, when we ask students, we ask the refugees, we ask them to tell us the 3 best things about living in direct provision and the 3 worst things about living in direct provision. And David will tell you the three best things they come up with.
Go on, what's the 3 best things?
Yeah, the 3 best things, they'll tell you that the place is clean.
Yeah.
And then the second one, they say it's a safe place. Mm-hmm. And the third one, they say they are friendly environment. And the worst, one thing they'll tell you.
But the thing is, when you ask them about the 3 worst things, they come up with one.
With only one, the worst thing. They say they don't know their future. Yeah. That's what they tell you. Only one they'll come with.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's very important.
Yeah.
What happens next? What do you want people to get in touch with you about, Frank? How do they contact you?
We are urgently looking for anybody with skills in bookkeeping, computerised bookkeeping. Now, that might be somebody who's been in a company and is a bookkeeper, or probably better, a teacher of bookkeeping or a student of bookkeeping, computerised bookkeeping, and also payroll. Normally a tutor would need classroom management, discipline skills and so on, pacing schedules. None of that is required with high level, very enthusiastic, supportive students.
And how do people get in touch with you?
So we operate from the OSullivan Centre, which is in Coffee House Lane, and if anybody would like to get in contact, it's our email is newcommunityms@gmail.com. And they could call into the centre, which is just directly behind S Security on the quay, or they might phone, text 083 472 1336.
And the email again, newcommunityms at gmail.com. And again, this may suit people to do an hour a day, an hour a week, whatever the case may be. Every little help. If you're able to build up a bank of tutors,
absolutely,
that will help.
And the hope is, and I know it'll work out, that once we get this, the students who are the people who are now students will return back as
will
tutors.
Become tutors as well. Yeah, so that's good. Day and David, thanks very much for joining us. Continued success, and hello to your families for us, and I hope you make a good success of it. Very best of luck.
Thank you, Damien.
Frank, thank you so much.
Thanks, Damien. That's
continued
super.
Great work to you and to all the volunteers that help out.
Yeah. And Paul particularly, and the Lions Club, particularly supportive of us. Yeah.
So that's Frank Kennedy, and it's the Men's Shed in Osmond Street, and it's newcommunityms@gmail.com.
Coffee House Lane.
Coffee House Lane.
Yeah, Coffee House Lane.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Damien. That's super. Thank you.
Now, keep your text and comments coming in, 083 3333 975. And I am going to go straight to Jessica O'Sullivan. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thanks very much for joining us. Jessica, you are Deputy Editor with evoke.ie, is that right?
I am indeed, yes.
And a new Women in the Gym survey. We were just saying, Julie and myself, we seem to do pieces about women's issues, and they can be light and fluffy. It's we don't want to bracket these pieces in any way in a gender-based way, and yet these surveys that you're doing, they're quite interesting in the sense that they're revealing that 7 out of 10 women feel under more pressure than men to look good at the gym. Tell us about the survey.
Yeah, I suppose, we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into why people, give up on their New Year's resolution to, not stay active or maybe to do more exercise. And, the obvious one is, having the energy to actually get up off the couch, which I think everyone, struggles with. But we were wondering, for women, was it something to do with body image and confidence? And when we actually did the survey, it seemed it was. And, it was very surprising to us because, the conversation these days is all about, body confidence and empowerment and that kind of thing. But it seems that those little niggles are still there for women, very much so.
Now, if anybody wants to text in about this, please do. Text or WhatsApp 083 333 975. Now, half the women you've surveyed would prefer to attend a female-only gym, a women's-only gym. Obviously, it shows then that the other half don't have a problem going to a mixed gym. Are there many female-only gyms out there? Not too many, I don't think.
Not too many, but actually, funnily enough, I was a member of a gym which had a female-only floor. And I really enjoyed going to it, especially on the days where I woke up and I kind of felt, oh, God, I look like an old boot today. I don't want anyone to see me, and I would just go to this floor. But, I mean, I do see the kind of, I suppose, it's kind of controversial because if they had a male-only floor, I probably would have went and complained to management and asked why I couldn't get access to it, So whether it's fair or not, I'm not sure, but there was a lot of appetite in the gym that I actually attended, and it would be full of an evening. Yeah.
Do you think women don't have a problem looking in a certain way with other women there? Like, why is this dichotomy that some women feel that they have to look a certain way if there's men looking at them? Like, gyms are not pick-up joints, are they?
Well, I think they are actually. I mean, there.
Go away.
No, there are definitely people who've met at the gym. I know I have friends who are married and they met at the gym, so it's definitely somewhere where you could find another half.
Oh, but, okay. Just on that, tell us about those friends. How did they meet? Now was he on the barbells? Was she on the treadmill? What happened? How did it go on? Tell us how did it happen?
Oh, well, actually, he was an instructor at the gym, and the minute she arrived for her first class there, she had her eye on him, and over the course of a couple of months, he tried to keep it professional, and they just couldn't resist each other, and they have 2 beautiful children now.
Wow, happily married.
A gym love story, yeah.
And did she have to stop going to his classes then, I wonder? Did she say, okay, let's...
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've got your own personal trainer at home, why would you bother paying the fee, really?
It's kind of an old fantasy thing, though, is it, for some women or for some men that they might meet their loved one at the gym? I'd say it's rare enough that it happens, but when it does happen, fair play.
I mean, there's so many, we're not just talking about like gym, we're talking about classes as well. Things like Crossface have absolutely exploded. And on the back of that then, there's a huge social scene that goes with it, So they might go out for drinks of an evening, even Gymflow with those gyms which are becoming more popular now around Ireland. They've organised, say, a hike on the 25th of January up the Sugarloaf.
Right, up in Wicklow, yeah.
So there's all these extra things, these kind of social activities for like-minded people, I suppose you could say. So, I mean, I suppose if you weren't feeling your best, you wouldn't want the guy that you fancy from the office seeing you, with your frizzy hair and no makeup and sweating.
Yeah, I suppose... Like, if you're talking about endorphins, you're talking about different feelings that would be expressed at the gym, and you're looking to make yourself feel better, and you're eyeing up somebody like that. You have this idea that, do people flirt in the gym?
Oh, definitely. And I mean, we've all been there where there's guys sitting, looking at themselves in the mirror, while they're flexing and lifting the weights and kind of side-eyeing you out wondering if anyone's looking at them. And I mean, all you have to do is look at Instagram and see the amount of gymfluencers, as they're now called, posting pictures of themselves in the gym, working out, in the gym mirrors, and even just regular Joe Soaps doing the same. So, I mean, it's definitely turning into I suppose, a bit of a catwalk in the gym. So I think that I can understand why people who might not feel as confident about their body, or, you know, who might feel that, you know, they might look silly because even if they can't keep up with the class, that they just want to go and would prefer to bury their head in a tub of Ben and Jerry's at home than, you know, get up off the couch.
It does bring up a very serious matter, though, Jessica, as well. And we spoke about this last week with another person in terms of, as you say, the Instagrammers. If a woman, and you say that 7 out of 10 women feel under more pressure than men. So if a woman doesn't feel that she should or wants to do an Instagram post, it might end up making her feel worse that she's in the gym and more pressure on her. And then she may end up giving up the gym, and she may well be the person that would get more value out of the gym because she may well want to lose a few pounds, she may well want to tone up or whatever, and she might be influenced in a negative way because the others are there, the thin women, if you want to call it, and they're doing their selfies and doing their all Instagram stuff, and poor Mary is there saying, now this is, and she ends up going back to the Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, and I suppose what the survey showed was that, you know, like 58% of women said that they would avoid the gym for a reason to do with, you know, how they view themselves. And I mean, that's a huge amount of people. So what it shows is that everyone has their insecurities, really. You know, everyone's thinking something about themselves. You know, 15% said they wouldn't want anyone to see them sweating, you know, and some people, 38% said they'd feel silly, and, 28% that they felt like their body shape would be judged. So everyone has those niggling little, you know, negative voices in their head. And I think that if you realise that everyone has their own insecurities, you might feel more comfortable with yourself, that everyone's so involved with what's going on with them that they're really not looking at you at all, you know?
Yeah, they're not
getting that message across.
I know, yeah, but with the growing influence of Instagram and social media, I just think it's putting some women under pressure. In particular, it's putting men under pressure as well. But again, men, because of that, maybe, it's fine, it doesn't really bother me type of attitude. But I don't know. I think there should be talks. I think gym, and we had a lady in from the gym here in Waterford, one of the main gyms, talking about this last week. I think there should be talks to people that come into gyms about this. Like, it's too easy to say, all right, let's all take pictures of ourselves and aren't we gorgeous and we're lovely, and you'll make sure to get the right angle that your face looks really perfect in it as opposed to like a sweaty mess.
Which is how the majority of the masses look when they've finished in the gym. I wonder sometimes if these people have done any workout, to be honest, when I see them looking so perfect.
That's exactly
They probably take it beforehand. But I do think, though, that there is the tide is turning. People are realising the difference of, you know, between reality and Instagram world. And it's turning very slowly. But I do agree with you that their gyms need to kind of take, I suppose, control of this and actually, you know, educate their new, clients or whatever about this, the same way that they do about nutrition and all that kind of thing, you know, because a lot of gyms are offering that now as well. So it's about, you know, people feeding their bodies with the right food and feeding their minds with the right message.
Yeah,
you know?
But the problem is, again, you know this, Jessica, I know it, it's free advertising for the gyms. They love the idea of people going in, taking these lovely selfies and the Instagram posts, and isn't it great? And it's free advertising for them. So it's going to be hard for a gym to impose a selfie-free zone, won't it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we asked the Evoke readers whether they would share a selfie of themselves post-workout, a sweaty selfie in particular, and 60% said they wouldn't, but 30% said they would if it was for a good cause, or if they would help to change people's self-esteem, or if it was part of an internet challenge or something like that. So there is a kind of an appetite there for people to kind of, I suppose, pull back the curtain, so to speak, and expose people, you know, in their natural state after working out, you know, even if people are still that little bit afraid to do it. Okay.
Jessica, thanks for joining us this morning.
No problem at all. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you. Jessica OSullivan, Deputy Editor of Evoke.ie on the Women in the Gym survey. 7 out of 10 women feel they're under more pressure than men to look good. Text us, what do you think? 083 333 975. Catherine has texted in, Damien, my friend's daughter met at the gym and her husband, and they're happily married now. Not the same couple that your speaker was talking about. Actually, it doesn't say if it's a husband, maybe a same-sex couple. So met at the gym and are happily married now. 083 333 975. You can call 051 846 123. Next, we are going to be talking about the new halting sites that are planned for Waterford City and County. Welcome back to the programme. Eamonn Quinlan, good morning.
Morning, Damien.
How are you getting on?
Not too bad.
Do you take selfies in the gym?
No, my gym, they have signs all over the place saying you're not allowed to use your phone for anything other than listening to music, which actually is great, because if I was huffing and puffing like a beached whale on a treadmill and there was some guy taking selfies of himself and there I was in the background, it showed up on Facebook, I'd be like, oh, thanks for that, buddy.
And where is that? What gym is that?
Spirit Gym.
Spirit Gym, yeah, because we were talking to Jackie last week in Kingfisher and we were just talking to them about that. So they have a phone-free zone.
There's signs up all over the gym saying, look, unless it's literally one of those pouch things on your arm and headphones up into your ears, they don't want to see anyone using a phone in the gym, which is actually, it's great. It
is great, yeah, but it's free advertising if you do Instagram posts in certain gyms, and it's all that sort of stuff, and people look great, don't they?
Yeah, but it's always the exceptionally good looking people. Like, I mean, you were just saying there that someone texted in and said their daughter and son-in-law met in a gym. That's the good looking people meeting in the gym. That's no good to anyone else.
Listen, thanks for coming in to us. Joe Kelly was on yesterday and we were talking to John O'Leary as well, Euro Fianna Fáil councillor in the city. We're talking to Joe about Carrickfearish and Gracedue plans for new halting sites and the requirement. There's a requirement on the council, under law, on all councils across the country, to provide for accommodation for travellers. There's approximately 220 travellers in Waterford City and County, many of them in houses, some of them on halting sites. Waterford in the past has been non-compliant at certain levels, I understand. Do you think there's still a reticence out there to deal with this problem? We'll talk about Carrickfearish in a minute. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a general reticence? For example, some people said if you put a halting site in another councillor's area, they might be against it then.
Yeah, you're dead right not to get stuck on one specific area. So the TAP programme that we brought through, so Traveller Accommodation Plan, we are required by law to have one of those in effect at all times. This is the new one that came in. It does basically go from Yallbridge all the way up down, all the way to say Dunmore East. You're correct, there is resonance there. There would be a sense among.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, look, we could go into the stereotypes. I suppose there would be a feeling that the lower income, cheaper land, cheaper properties around Waterford City especially tend to be targeted by predominantly the council to put in halting sites or facilities that they feel they'll meet less resistance. There's probably been a history of having halting sites in these areas going back years. If you go to the more affluent, much more expensive areas, does the state give the council first and foremost sufficient funds to buy out land 2, 3, 4 times the price of where it might be in other parts of Waterford City? You know, the state isn't making those kind of resources available to councils. Therefore, what we've seen over a period of time, and I've said it to you and I've said it to the listeners, is we've seen in effect a ghettoisation of the travelling community who wish to live the nomadic lifestyle in halting sites, in caravans, where they're essentially being pushed into several small spaces. Not to get again hung up by Carrickfearish, but if you take the Bilberry location, if you take there's 2 sites in Carrickfearish, that's effectively 3, only within several hundred yards. And the plan that we had faced from Waterford Council some weeks ago that was voted down was a 4th one essentially. And then you've got other councillors that have said, well, look, we're looking at proliferation in these areas. And it's wrong for members of the travelling community to be ghettoised like that. It's wrong to put, I suppose, a burden on the settled community in terms of services, in terms of outreach in those specific areas. And what we have in effect is there is actually several halting sites and locations around Waterford City where, when I met with our Director of Housing, Community Service and Travellers prior to the vote on the TAP last week, you know, he said, well, this plan isn't about Carrickfearish specifically, it's about the whole thing. And he said, well, you obviously have concerns around Carrickfearish and I have previously voted against it. He said, you know, you shouldn't be standing in the way of allowing traveller services and traveller accommodation to develop in areas where the travellers and members of the settled community have a good relationship and there's no resistance coming from those areas. So I felt a nuanced view was required. I told our director that I agree that there was areas where we have good relations with the travelling community. We have good relations in terms of with the settled community and expansion of accommodation. Therefore, I wouldn't shoot down the plan completely, but I reserve the right to not vote for it the TAP last Thursday because it did incorporate the Carrickfergus expansion again, and this is only weeks after I had voted to shoot it down, to vote against that. That expansion can't go ahead unless the council takes their responsibilities seriously in terms of their responsibilities both for the travelling community and the settled community.
There's so many issues here, and you've touched on some of them. We won't have time to get into all of them. There's so many issues here, and people talk about the travellers themselves as a homogenous group, as opposed to saying there are good travellers and bad travellers, just like there's good settled people and non-settled people. There's travellers that have been integrated into community life in different aspects of life over many, many years.
Yep.
There's other travellers that commit crime. There's other non-travellers that commit crime. You talk about travellers looking after the halting sites themselves, travellers potentially building houses. We talk about the bungalow, which was illegally erected in Carrickfergus. And then you talk about how the state deals with it. And as you say, an ingrained reticence. Class comes into it as well. So you'll have relatively wealthy areas of Waterford. Another text in this morning. Why is there no halting site out along the Dunmore Road?
Well, the TAP programme that came in last Thursday does recommend placing a halting site on the Dunmore Road.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, well, I'll put it to you like this.
That will never happen.
If I said to people, I will build a 50-foot wall and completely ghettoise travellers on the Dunmore Road, they would still fight you on it because they don't want them going to the schools, they don't want them going to the same social events, there is a reticence out there. And I'd just like to point out...
I would go so far, reticence is one word, there's an ingrained racism.
Well, we had members of the travelling community and representatives of the travelling community put input into the TAP programme that came through. And there was areas, and I won't specify them here, but there was areas around the city and county that the travellers themselves felt that actually they were not seeking to have halting sites or accommodation placed there because they felt that they would be very unwelcome by the community in perhaps, I suppose, ironically, in some of the less well-off areas of Waterford City where they have a tradition of living, they actually feel more welcome there.
And county, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, yes, it's across the board. As I said,
it's all from people in Dungarvan as well, yeah.
It's all the way down to Youghal Bridge. The situation that we have on our hands is exceptionally nuanced. It is not helped by Waterford Council, I suppose, shirking its responsibilities. It's not helped by, I suppose, the lack of funds being made to councils by central government to tackle the real issues that are there, because what you're having is...
Government would say they're giving a lot of money. Waterford was one of the councils that didn't spend their allocation in previous years.
What's going on, you see, is that they're providing sums of money for councils to go off and create new halting sites. And the council's planners, technicians, drafters won't do that because they're afraid of, just like anything, if you're being charged something today, you don't see it, but if you charge something new tomorrow, you're up in arms over it. So what they've done is they've begun doubling down, and Carrickfergus would be a prime example where it started off as one halting site, now it's two, and the plan, of course, then is to bring it up to three. That because what they're doing is they're doubling it on these very small geographical areas. You're talking overcrowding, you're talking an over, I suppose, what would you say, an over reliance on a small number of social services. I mean, I've been on the show talking about, I suppose we had, for years, myself and Chow and Neil were trying to get bus times improved in the Carrickfergus area. There's only recently gone in a small shop for the entirety of Carrickfergus area. You're talking about, lack of basic community services, council kind of input in the area. There was a council neighbourhood office up there. It's gone now. You're talking about the stretch to the limit of Waterford City, and yet this is where you want to put a lot of people who rely on these services.
Yeah, like again, Maria's texted in, Margaret has phoned in. Would Damien or Eamonn buy a house next to a halting site? Would we live beside travellers? This question constantly comes up of not in your backyard. In other words, it's grand if travelling halting sites and travellers live somewhere else, because there's this idea that they're not the same.
Two things on that. One, I live in Graysdew, so this is actually in my backyard. And secondly, and you posed a question to John O'Leary, or the question was posed to John O'Leary yesterday in relation to come in. People need to not cod themselves. This whole anti-travelling. There's travellers living in every nook and cranny in Waterford City and County. They're just, a lot of them are in houses.
Yeah.
And because they're in a house, people don't then cop that they happen to be members of the travelling community, and there isn't this kind of resistance. And that's why we've seen the last couple of years this, I suppose, drift into housing almost the majority of the travelling population in Waterford now in houses, because when they're placed in houses, this kind of negative stereotype and this kind of resistance amongst communities doesn't come up, and we are housing them in more affluent areas. And again, it's just not an issue. But
yeah, I'd have no problem. I know people that say, you would say that on the radio. Absolutely no problem if I was living beside a traveller. Other texters saying that, again, the generalised comments, travellers are given everything, they don't understand this. So there's lots of a text in, I was living in Bedford in the UK. There was a halting site there. There were good people and not so good people, but the police couldn't enter the site unless there were at least 3 cars with them together. Can you remind Councillor Quinlan that people have genuine concerns about the halting sites? Look at the ones already in place. Rubbish, scrap all over the place. Again, there's responsibility on both the people that live there and the council that look after
And
it.
I'm straight up and honest with people that I feel that the council has failed in its duty in multiple locations where there's halting sites, specifically I suppose the Carrickferris halting site. Like the bus stop is broken up there in terms of suitable sewage, refuse collection, accommodation. They have failed to address those issues, and when we put it to our planners in the housing department at our previous meeting when we voted on this, we were saying if you can simply implement the law across the board on environmental planning, housing, etc., you will gain support both of us and the settled community. And when we felt that there was a straight out resistance from the executive to sign up to deliver on those, that's when the plan completely fell apart. And that's the space that you're in, that when you have a situation where people feel that there's double standards at play, no one can move forward, I suppose, in good faith. And that's where we are now.
Yeah, Maria's texted in again. We're not talking about housing. It's different to a halting site. Like, there are some people that would say just get rid of halting sites completely. There should be no halting sites in the country. And yet travellers are in law. They're respected as an indigenous part of society, and their traditions to be respected.
That's a fundamental aspect that under law we have to take account of the nomadic lifestyle and heritage of travellers, and that if they wish to go for a halting site existence, that we have to provide some means for them to do so. I suppose the issue that...
Is that wrong? Would you be against that law?
No, if a traveller wants to live in a halting site, that's their own personal business, that's fine. No, I suppose the issue is that what we've had down through the years is unfortunately a situation where Waterford Council used to go several miles out the road. They used to buy up a few fields, throw travellers essentially into them, and then walk away and leave them to the end. And that's essentially what happened in Carrickferris. When the Carrickferris halting site went in, there was almost nothing up in Carrickferris. The city has simply caught up to the problems that the can that was kicked down the road by the council maybe 20 years ago at this point, that they failed to put in proper services up there. They failed to, I suppose, incorporate in. And look, yes, it's a nuanced situation, and I cannot, I suppose, speak in generalisations, because I know travellers who are working in Waterford who are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but I also do have specific issues with specific travellers, especially in the Carrickferris area, about this, that and the other, which I won't make allegations of here, but I've referred those to our council's housing department, to Gardaí if the matter warrants, etc. like that. The issue that we have is untenable, and I think that until Waterford Council steps up and recognises that the ghettoisation of travellers in small geographical areas will not receive councillor, settled community or even traveller support, it's not going to happen. And that's one of the main, I suppose, proposals that came from members of the travelling community in the traveller accommodation plan, is they wanted us to investigate new areas around the city and county for accommodation for the travelling community.
Yeah, people are talking about house sales. You can't run on the footpaths in Carrickferris anymore. Footpaths are blocked. You're either heckled or chased by dogs. I've stopped jogging. Is this right?
I joined a gym because I used to jog up Grays Dew and jog up Carrickferris. Of
course it's not right, yeah.
I used to get intimidated, so I headed off and joined a gym instead.
Yeah, why don't you get travellers in your area and see what happens to get houses, and look at the sulkies and talking about the prices of houses going down in certain areas.
Yeah, but there's a difference here between misconduct of certain travellers and existence of travellers. Some people seem to be conflating the two. I have issues with sulky racing, I have issues with rubbish, I have issues with vandalisation, I have issues with all that, and that's not just confined to members of the travelling community, it's also to any member of the settled community. But some people seem to be conflating that where you have one, you automatically have the other, and that is a problem, and it's not helping us resolve this situation.
A texter in, if travellers want to live in a halting site, they should have to keep it in a good way, the same as we do our houses. I've been into the Carrickferris halting site on several occasions. It's cleaner in there at times than backyards of houses I've seen in parts of the city. So again, there's issues surrounding there, but also Waterford Council needs to step up in terms of toilets, sewerage and other facilities to help people. I mean, if I didn't have running water, if I didn't have sewerage, if I didn't have bin collection, I'm sure my house would look pretty rough. How's your attendance at council meetings? Very good. Eamonn Quinlan, thanks very much for joining us. Thank you very much. Liam Corcoran, good morning.
Oh, hello, Damien. How are you? Good morning to you.
How are you keeping?
Not too bad at all, thank you. Good.
You're on the National Executive of the AGSI. That's the Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors. You've had your Waterford branch AGM held this week in Waterford. What are the main issues?
Monday night.
Yeah, what are the main issues that are, I suppose, exercising the tongues of the members locally?
Yes, Damien. Well, essentially, being the association we're to look after the paying conditions of the members of the association, pay being almost separate, but conditions then would cover a multitude. But certainly one of the most pressing things facing the Waterford members, the men and women in the branch there in the station and in the surrounding areas, is the Commissioner's new operating policing model, and coming from, of course, the Police Service of the Future programme, and that he is charged to implement. And you will have seen it yourself there. The primary change there is the joining of the Waterford Police Division, as you know it, and since we've known it since the foundation of the Garda Síochána, now joined in with the Carlow Kilkenny divisions. That is going to mean major changes for the working conditions, the day-to-day operation, how we provide policing to the people of the state.
Yeah, what sort of an influence and a say do ye have as members on the ground, Liam, in terms of working with these proposed changes as they happen?
Well, that's a good question. How we can influence them it will remain to be seen. But we do have to advocate. We do have to represent our members. We do have to look at these proposals in the light of the working conditions and the day-to-day, the work-life balance for our members, and how these new policies will interfere, will impact, and will probably even enhance their work, the way they do their work on a daily basis. Now, for instance, in Waterford, there, one of the principal parts of the new operating model is a new system of doing investigations, referred to as the IMS. This has been piloted in Waterford, and my colleagues in AGSI within Waterford are taking a lead in this. This is a new process of investigating away from our 100-year-old system of paper and a computer-based system. Now, a system that comes out in a policy and in a procedure document, when it's actually transferred into the actual working, how do you actually work it in a day-to-day environment, in a 24/7 policing environment? It has thrown up its problems, it has thrown up its difficulties. And our members have fully engaged with this and are trying to come through fixes, and we're trying to come up with a better way of doing it, even already. Change is going through the organisation at the minute at a rapid pace, and we're engaging in it. But we want also to be part and parcel of the change. We want to have influences as best we can for the betterment of the people we serve and for our members as well.
Liam, loads of topics there we can come back to, and we will over the next month or so. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. We might have you in studio here someday, and we'll go through some of those topics in a little bit more detail. Is that okay?
That'd be brilliant, Damien, and only too delighted.
Will do. So. Liam, mind yourself. Liam Corcoran, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you. Liam Corcoran, they're a National Executive Member of the AGSI. Some of the issues arising from Waterford branch members' discussions over the past week. Now, some of the text still coming in. I see on the wires, as they say, Wexford's Brendan Howlin of Labour has ruled out joining a coalition that includes Sinn Féin. As we heard earlier from the Sean Defoe from News Talk, there will be a coalition, simply a coalition of whatever parties are going to be, and Labour now ruling out joining in with Sinn Féin. We'll deal with that as the situation progresses. Damien, I'm in a gym over 20 years. I've seen affairs between married people. I met my partner, and I know a good few other marriages that came from people meeting there. It's a good, healthy environment for meeting people. Go to the gym and you might find love. Actually, that could be a good slogan for some of the gyms. Go to the gym and you might find love. Damien, keep up the good work. The discussion on Travers is very good. Damien, the corporation can't look after people who are paying big rent. I have children on a housing list 5 or 6 years and can't get a house, who both have 2 children, can't get a house. Other people giving out about the state of halting sites and the amount of rubbish that's built up on the side of road. No rubbish bins over Christmas especially, and others people talking about the sulkies and saying what is going to happen with the sulky racing. Now, thank you everybody for your texts and comments this morning. Thank you, Julie, for producing. Jeff is up next. The election day one is officially upon us in terms of full canvassing. As I say, we hope to have an in-depth interview with outgoing Minister of State John Halligan tomorrow. We'll let you know later on today if that is going to happen for tomorrow. Take care out there. It looks like it's going to be a nice morning. Get out for a nice walk in the afternoon if you can. And it will be a bit of rain later on. Sinead or Eamonn are coming up with the news at 12 in a few seconds.